Okay, it says, hi guys and welcome. It's Miss Loisel here. I'm with Typical Skeptic Podcast Rob and our special guest, Dr. West, who we're hosting today. So thank you, special guests, for arriving today. And if you would both like to introduce yourself.
I
Sure.
guess I'll go first. I'm Rob. I'm with the Typical Skeptic podcast. I've been doing this for like 5 years. And I remember Dr. West from the conference. I remember seeing him there. And he's going to be an amazing guest. I'm excited for it. And I'm excited for one of your first podcasts, Amy. This is great. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor. Thank you for both of you. It's my
Um,
second podcast.
yeah, I met you guys, I think, for the first time at the Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida. Lots going on at that conference.
Yeah, I
Excellent.
agree. Did
I
you
love your
enjoy it?
content that you provide. I've been over 30 years in the health and wellness field. My father was heavily persecuted because he took and discovered a lot of research that they just wanted to bury. And he started teaching it 200 cities a year, 5 to 6 cities a week, looked at it as the science behind all the healing arts and all empowerment. And it actually is. He was one of the greatest cellular physiologists that ever lived. He discovered the engine of the cells, the sodium potassium pump. I was his top student. I pioneered a stem cell technology over 30 years ago that I've helped reattach brains with from New York to LA, long distance. So distance healing, there are some principles that time and space aren't even a factor. So with stem cells that you can produce for every part of your body every single day, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that they don't want you to know about. And it really cuts to the heart of what they don't want you to know about, because the most important stuff really hasn't been made widely known yet. Most people don't even know that we're mostly lymph. And you probably never heard that. Well, we're mostly water, and most of that is lymph. We have more lymph than blood and more lymphatic vessels than blood vessels. There's a whole other circulatory system in your body. Rob, had you heard about that? Aside
The
from the
lymph, yeah.
bloodstream.
I have a supplement here where it's a lymph drainage supplement. It's like
Really?
it's for liver and lymph drainage. I know it's pretty important, right? Because in my case, like I started to develop like cysts, which I heard is like common for like people that are I'm like Mediterranean, but also, someone told me they said, well, you might have a lymph problem, they said
Yeah.
you might need to
Well,
have lymph drainage. So, yeah, I
there
have
are,
heard a little bit, but I don't know a lot.
yeah. So the cyst is more of a genetic issue,
Yeah.
Rob. And we can get into that on this call too, because there's a God particle that we're born producing that really stops being able to go to work more and more after the age of 20 till we die. And it's supposed to regulate all the disease mechanism genes that are also called survival genes. There's about 5,000 of them, roughly. But 100% of them, they're all regulated by this one God particle. So if they can't go to work, then they're not regulated. We overproduce the wrong things. We underproduce the right things more and more. And all of the anti-fibrotic genes are regulated by this God particle. Everything to do with scar tissue. That's fibrosis, okay? So genetically, it's regulated by one God particle. And all the peptides that the athletes are spending thousands of dollars per month for, there's a few that are man-made that we're not born producing. And so this God particle doesn't have anything to do with that. But all the ones that are associated with stem cell production, like the one that the X39 patch targets, well, that's one of basically 5,000 things that this other God particle does perfectly. And it's just way more efficient with how it works. It's like the effectiveness of 5,000 pharmaceutical drugs without the negative effects of any drugs, because they target one gene at a time out of those 5,000. That's how they're formulated. And yet this God particle just tunes all 5,000. So again, some of the things we're going to be talking about are the things that they don't want in mainstream media, the really more powerful things. And each one of these areas that I'm mentioning is like less than 1% of what it actually does. Like all the cytokines associated with COVID-19, all 30 of them are all regulated by this one God particle. And they basically quadruple their expression on average. And if I can pull up a screen, I can show you some of the slides of what we're talking about from what's been known. The FDA has known about this God particle for the DNA, this new model that replaces the pharmaceutical model. They've known about it since at least 2014, didn't say one word during COVID, even though they know that it also downregulates the TMPRSS2 protein that's required in order for any coronavirus to attach to the ACE2 receptor side of the cell, insert itself in a cell and replicate, killing every cell that happens with. So all those things that it's basically quadrupling, making worse, when we can tune those things back down, here's a formula for you. With too much of a cytokine storm, you get too much inflammation happening too fast. You don't have time to produce your own antibodies, you die. 100% of deaths of COVID were from too much inflammation, terminal inflammation, and hypoalbuminemia, meaning low albumin in the blood, because that's the water magnet and the sodium magnet. Lymph fluid is basically, that's the main protein for the lymph. It's the main blood protein too. Most of the blood protein in the blood is albumin, and it's the whole content of that leaves every 24 hours. That content. So whatever pill you're taking, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not pulling it out, because the physical way to pull it out are things that physically activate your lymphatic vessels. And that's where a lot of the healing arts that have to do with the laying on of hands work. But if it's an herb, working with, say, all herbs are color and energy, they work on principles of energy. If through the energy principles, it can unlock the albumin, then it can start getting pulled out. You get results, but limited results. But when you use energy to unlock the albumin and then activate the vessels to pull it out, you're going to crack the code for all kinds of miracles that start happening at that point, because you're starting to reestablish the healthy environment of the cells. The zero disease environment is where there's no inflammation, where the disease environment is inflammation. That's the main aspect of terrain theory, which is all about cell environment, is whether there's inflammation or not. So it rings true for all the deaths of COVID. They all fit that model perfectly. And it's probably the main thing that they could have done is taught people to deep breathe and bounce on a mini trampoline, because that activates lymphatic vessels like crazy, especially if they know what to think, to turn on the power plants inside of their bodies that are called chakras in India, the 7 houses in China. There are your endocrine glands. So if you know how to turn them on, you can produce most of the energy in the body that's being produced. They send energy to each other. You'll create all kinds of miracles when you combine the principles. And each master key that I'm talking about, whether it's the energy, what to do to really knock out inflammation, or what tunes the DNA side of the equation, or the microbiome side of the equation, that's a different God particle for that, or the hormone side of the equation, that's a different master key for that. And these all work together, like Native Americans called it the web of life, what is also really the tree of life, because they weave in and out, they activate each other, all kinds of different ways, but they also each have a very, very best way. And truth is, the top athletes have figured out the hormone side of the equation, so like the Eagles and the Chiefs, the teams that have been doing the very best in the Super Bowls past few years, they're extensively on that technology that makes it easy for them with light activity. Even an 80-year-old with a 10-minute walk can get a significant regenerative hormone release that not even bioidentical hormone replacement therapy can give them. There are supplementary factors that are missing in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and each tissue type has hormones that regenerate them, without which that's just a chain dragging us down. And with those hormones, it is a pillar in our life. And there's at least 7 of these pillars that we need to activate for regeneration. Some of them have to do with other superhuman abilities that make it just way easy. Like I can activate whole audiences in a split second. I call that instant mass healing or Jedi mind healing. I use these terms interchangeably, just different names for the same techniques. And the principles where, like, say, distance, if I can help reattach brains from New York to LA, well, I've been doing distance, full audience activations where we transfer massive, like, hours of conscious data, what it would take for me to speak something within just a split second, because that's how fast their subconscious minds really do work. And this is way better than any AI that's ever been invented. We have the best hardware. It's just a matter of having the right software. And everybody in those audiences, when this lines up everyone's neck and hips, everyone that's ever happened with, which is countless people for decades have been doing this. All I did is change the data between their ears. I just added something that cleaned that up to turn things on with what's going on between the ears. So that means to me that they already had the right hardware, just, had to develop what was between the ears. Something got corrupted over time with what we're capable of. So the upgrades are here. If sometimes it takes a lot of wisdom to know who to go for to get those upgrades. But there are superhuman abilities where we can produce stem cells for every part of our body every day. That's just one of the many things that I activate people with. And if I do it for you, or you, Loisel and Rob, both of you, if I do it for you within I could say it may last 24 hours, it may last a week or two. But if I teach you how to do this for yourself, where you understand all the ins and outs of what it is, and you could even get it on a conscious level too, because we got enough of that as well. But if I teach you these principles yourself, you know how to activate yourselves and others, like I know how to activate you. And even principles where time and space aren't a factor, where you could access empowerments that I've done for audience in different times and places. I have 100% success with that too. And it's as stupid simple as ABC for me. So yeah. I appreciate the topic, the title of your show, as far as Typical Skeptic. I like to go to Missouri, the show me state, and I like to show people. Watch what happens. Because there are certain things that I've figured out that, again, anybody can do. 100% success. I'm willing to put a money back guarantee on it, but I've never had to use that, because by the time they walk away, I show them what they're able to do, and I've never had anybody who's been. It's so simple, so easy. Anybody's been able to do these things. I started practicing principles when I was a little kid. My mother was studying all the top people that had to do back then. It was called ESP. And more we get people talking about, remote viewing, different things in different times and places. That's you have plenty of content with people like that on your show, I'm sure. But what I want to talk about is how in 1966, there's an organization called International Society of Lymphology that was formed. And in the fine print, they made it so it technically was not a pure medical society. And they formed this in order to shut up all the top medical minds, especially Hyman Samuel Merson, who was publishing the most in medical journals, so that he couldn't publish one more study in any medical journal ever again on any of the science that he was involved with in that area, that the International Society of Lymphology was formed for. Because anytime any medical doctor is participating in an organization like that, that takes them out. It's part of their "you're just not supposed to" rules. Why? Well, it's very scientific, Rob and Loisel. You're just not supposed to. Very scientific, isn't that? And why we have less than half the medical schools in our country today than prior to the first NGO, Rockefeller Foundation, and the CDC and WHO are basically NGOs, sister organizations, in my opinion. They're set up to do things that would normally be illegal for the government to do by themselves. Did you know that's what an NGO is? So that's how they took over all.
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's what it is. And it was born out of the first trust. Standard Oil Trust was the first trust in the United States, which was also created to do something that would be normally illegal to do, to create a monopoly in the oil industry. And it took several presidents of the United States to tear that apart. We ended up with 7 monsters instead of just one. Now we got gangs that can operate independent of central leadership. And I wonder where they learned it from, right? Well,
The energy companies, the other energy companies, like
of course,
like the
they're just doing the
electricity.
grunt work from the parasitic elites. So if you understand the principles, you can see it from top to bottom, where abuse, how it plays out. And you can also, if enough people understand those principles, then it can't hide anymore. It can't even hide behind the name of Jesus Christ. And unfortunately, it's been hiding plenty behind the name of Jesus Christ and all these other masters. It's been hiding plenty behind the Republican, the Democrat Party, behind Communist Party. And it's been able to hide just as easy under Democrat and Republican as it has socialism and communists. But when you understand the principles, we can get all the strengths gathered together, have more of an integrative way of just lining up all the strengths, which also exposes all the darkness everywhere. And that is the true gathering. It's a grand integration of the greatness from every culture. And that is really based on the laws of nature, just a higher realm level of understanding those laws of nature. That knowledge is what's responsible for creating all the greatest cultures that have ever lived. And that's why I'm here. Because it's something that those are the principles that everyone has in common, that we can all unite together, stand up and overthrow all the abusers. So that's why I'm here. And forming a consensus, I produced a docuseries on it. It took 3 years just to pound out the script. I had a lot of downtime after a motorcycle accident that I had, and I pounded out a script called The Laws of Empowerment. It's a 22-hour docuseries. I didn't know that it would take that long. I might not have done it if I had known how hard it was going to be. So it's low budget docuseries. Many systems that I've brought in, I happen to have the same dragon head and tail, which is Egyptian astrology language for the North and South Node, as Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, Jules Verne, Nikola Tesla, all the greatest minds of history, most intuitive minds. Mm-hmm. And not everybody knows what that is, but come and experience me. I'm up to help show people, hand people the keys so they can actually drive a whole new car.
I love this. This is, I mean, there's so many questions I could ask you. Like, man, I'm trying to think of where to go. But with the healing and stuff and the activations, like, how do we learn this? And how do we, I'd love to start getting on a path of real wellness,
Most people, it's going to take them longer than a lifetime to figure out the real master level stuff, unless they get with a real master, a grandmaster. If you want to get the highest level master you can in each area, learn from them. So the best of the best. And if you can find anyone better, there are better people in different areas that I'm talking about than me. I've identified some of who I consider to be the best of the best as far as spiritual masters. And some of them are women who have come into my life that, like my mother, she was just gifted. She was also a king of clubs on the cards of destiny. She's also a woman. That makes her the queen of clubs as well. That's the suit of intuition, mother of intuition, father of intuition sort of thing. I was born on a queen of clubs card. And since, that's the mother of intuition, since I'm a man, that also means that I have the king of clubs in me as well. It's really interesting that when I was a little kid, though, she noticed that we could have conversations and understand. I would have ability to understand these principles that none of my siblings would have any interest in. She'd give me assignments and I would be practicing and coming back and reporting on mostly what was happening, what I was doing in shifting some of the bad juju in other people around us. One in particular, I'm laughing because if you have a family, you learn more about love and hate from those that are close to you, that are closest to you, like your own family members, than any other way. It's always the people that are the closest to us. So you relate with that, Rob?
I do, yeah.
I just had it happen again, the past few months. So I just embrace it, listen to it, and I get more gold nuggets from it, more clarity out of it. So hopefully we can identify how to really sniff the people out who are leaving the bloody trail behind them everywhere they go. You know what I mean? That's what it's about.
And forgive.
It's bittersweet. and I've never found the end of pulling back layers of that onion. I've been shown more and more at the subtle level how to identify things, which is more masterful. It's the most subtle things. They are the most simple things. They're the most powerful things. So I think the same is true when you're falling in love. It could be just such a beautiful, the most simple level of alignment that just shows up, where you can have a love at first sight. It's happened to me many times. Anyway, but it happens where with every system of our lives. I think it happens with money, when we're just in the flow, where we're just having all, the emotion, everything lined up, then everything just turns to gold, right? And it happens with our spiritual lives too. When we get rid of all the other clutter. Evidently, my body produces DMT very well, but I did have an experience with some moldy cheese once. I don't do any plant medicine. If I were president of the world, which I think we should all be sharing that position here very soon, no more presidents or kings, but where we're all sharing the power. If we could, I think we should legalize everything, and I would legalize all kinds of things that I wouldn't necessarily want my kids involved with doing, but everything should be legal as long as people aren't hurting other people. And if they want to hurt themselves, I think everyone deserves to die in the gutter with a drug overdose, should they choose to do so. And you might think me cold for saying that, but I don't think we should be calling 911. Why mess up a perfect opportunity for these people to meet God? And when I had the experience where I locked up a block of cheese after I cut off the top slice of a Tillamook block, I sealed it airtight, put it in a fridge. I was gone for 3 months traveling through Asia. When I came back, I opened it. I saw it. It was green, but I was curious. Put it on the counter, opened it, and as soon as it went airborne, it shot up in the air, and I was surprised. I took a quick breath, like you do when you're surprised, and it went straight up into my lungs that instantly. And my first knee-jerk reaction is, well, my life is in the hands of God yet again. I went into pins and needles and body shakes very quickly. And instead of calling 911, no, I just got really comfortable. And I had a NDI, you could call it, in one of those experiences. So I met God. I heard the voice. I had a bright recollection of all things. I had like a bunch of stuff happen. I wouldn't want to trade that for anything. So I've had other experiences where I may have died, but somehow I'm still here. And how many people have had these experiences where maybe I'm just in a different, I think it's a matrix of matrices, like in my father's matrix or many matrices, but our simulation, however you want to call it. So it just makes more sense to me to think of things this way, because how else could we remote view anything, anywhere, anytime? Like, how's that Operation Looking Glass could tell that they have a consensus that by 2030, there's no kings or presidents of any country, that there's something greater, that there's still local representation. How could they all have that consensus and be able to look into future events like that? And they did this a long time ago. So they didn't actually share what happened when for the transition that led to that. But that's where it's time for us to all wake up and realize what we can do now for that consensus. Again, it is our level of understanding the laws of nature and how we work within them that is what separates higher and lower realm governments. So I gave all I could on my 2 cents about that. I laid a foundation to build on, and I'm calling in the Council of Councils for the consensus, which are the cream of the crop of every culture. They're the ones, it's always been the few who bring it to the masses. It's just how it's always been. And did you know that the Aborigines in Australia wrote our Constitution before we did? Have you ever heard about that?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
But it would make
also,
sense.
Also, the first leader of the Sikh faith in India, that he wrote our Constitution before we did. Ask any Sikh in the United States, they're having the colorful turbans they wear.
Yeah.
They're not Jew. They're not Jewish. They're not Muslim. They're not Hindu. It's a whole different faith, and they believe that their first leader, and they're right. And 80% of the Brits I've heard were converted to the Sikh faith before they withdrew occupancy of India. And I think there's at least a few of them who had a copy and knew how to translate it. But also, according to Thomas Jefferson, our Native Americans here wrote it before we did. Right? Okay. Seems like everyone that was able to climb Jacob's ladder and have a higher level understanding of these laws, they're all getting the same plans.
Plants, so, you said?
The same understandings.
Oh, okay. Plants.
The same rules. The basically principles are like laws, which are rules, right? You break the rule, you get the negative. You're in alignment, you get the positive. Those are the fruits of the tree of death versus the tree of life. And I'm going to break it down to you into some simplicity, because I'm sure when Christ was showing people the way to truth and life, to the level that he was talking about life's made of systems, each system has a certain amount of laws. When we're in alignment, we get all the fruits of the tree of life type of thing. I'm sure some people said, can you just give it to us in simplicity? He says, yeah, all of this hinges off of, everything positive hinges off of love, like love God, love your neighbor, and all these other laws that I've been sharing, it all hinges off of that. His disciples ended up saying, if we could write everything he taught us about it, there'd be enough books to fill the earth. And we think we got it with one book or something. But I think it was one of the greatest disempowerments. And I know it's written in Mark and in other scriptures that Christ said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. I know those are the words that ended up being written in the Bible. I don't believe that that's what Christ said. I think what he said was way bigger and better, and that those words that end up being written are some of the greatest disempowerments that have been ever laid upon the Christian world.
Wow.
That's my opinion. And I have a very close relationship with the Son of God. And when I had that communication, the greatest communication was through that moldy cheese experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. He used my terminology way better than I have. And that's also a thing written in the Bible. When you meet him, you'll recognize him because you'll be like him. And I've heard some of your, when Loisel said that I was going to be on your show, I went back to some of your recent episodes and I heard the talk of, if you're Muslim, you have more of a Muslim experience. If you're Christian, you have more of a Christian experience, and so on. A Hindu experience. Well, I'm very already integrative, interfaith, been gathering more of the best. My father was very open-minded, even though he was raised in a dominant religion and died in one that persecuted him till he was gone. But, I really, it makes sense out of my experience, because never once did I have any conversation with him, to me, about any name that was of any significance. It never came up. I mean, I did hear the voice of the Father introducing him as the Son, and that was it. But it was all about, more related to the principles. So, and I think that's one of my core messages here, is it's all about the principles. And this one that I'm going to share that I was leading to, and I'm circling back to it. I'm going to give you something that is really also a message, I think, no matter what level of intelligence people are, especially the youth of today. So it doesn't matter if they're someone you'd consider to be woke or what. It's at its most basic form. The oldest teaching that I could find is put the principles in action and get the fruit. And at the basic level, one of the first things that I talk about before I get into all the systems, what the abuses have been and what the solutions have been in each system, which I talk about everything, the areas that people have been killed for, I talk about all of them. But it's always how it's done that makes it what it is. And with enough love and understanding, maybe Charlie Kirk wouldn't have been killed. Who knows? But it's this. It's this. Every positive choice we make, and we're all here. If you'd have respected other people's ideas and their lifestyle choices a bit more, maybe he wouldn't have been killed. If he'd have given them more freedom in their space, as long as they're not hurting anybody, to go ahead and have their sex changes or whatever they want to do, maybe he wouldn't have been killed. And I think that because too much of our society has been limiting our freedoms of expression, whether it's religion or from the government, whatever, when it comes to how people are married, whatever it is, that it has been a driving force behind all this, where if those factors didn't exist, then we wouldn't have these problems. For example, to solve the war on drugs, we would just legalize all drugs everywhere, and that would solve it. That's one of the things I talked about when I produced the Laws of Empowerment. And it's one of the things that, and I haven't gone to this simple thing that I would give you. I'm circling back around to it, though. I'm going to give it to you. I barely gave it, and I'm going to get into all these things, but it is with every positive choice you make. Doesn't matter where you start in any of the circle of our life, in any area of our lives. If you start really focusing on just making more positive choices for you and others, how you're treating people, everything that's involved, you will integrate more and more truth. And it's also inseparably connected to the life process of your cells. And truth is, we're all meant to be super geniuses should we follow this path of empowerment. And super healthy, superhuman abilities flowing. It's like this matrix is hardwired, programmed, that when we really push ourselves to excel, the limits are lifted. Each time we might think we hit a limit, the limits are lifted. So people, like the 4-minute mile that was broken, or I have friends that are world record holders that have broken multiple world records. Some of them are still existing today that I work out with. It's just another example. But every time that we do this, it doesn't matter what area of our lives, we continue to expand. Our limits are lifted, lifted, lifted over and over and over again. Examples after examples. Like we have no limits. We don't know what our limits are. We're just limitless. So if our human cells were ever meant to stop reproduce, the human race would have been gone a long time ago. And what does that do for our self-image of actually who we are as perfect? Really, from that perspective, we're duplications of God and Goddess. As far back as you can think of any record that's ever existed in history, that's really where we come from. We've been evolving. They've been, messing with DNA all along. It's been happening. So what is it that in fact, people doing their sex changes or whatever, it just shows you how far we're willing to go both directions to either being given enough rope to hang ourselves or climb out of the hole we're in. One way or the other, or, to given enough rope to let each principle be the chain, like all the 7 deadly sins, however they're going to show up in our lives. If we're going to allow those 7 princes of the underworld to have the control over us and to turn us into either slaves or slave masters, because that's one that it leads to one or the other when it comes to fear programming. You have more and more of that direction. That's what you're going to end up. Or on the other side of it, the faith programming, which is from love instead of the hate, from the emotional. And you can't separate the head from the heart. Every word in every language, if it has the same definitions, it's got the same energy signatures. So energy is a universal language. So that faith will teach you how to be an empowerer, empowered for yourself and to empower others. And we could call that the laws of ascension because it's inseparable. You can't separate any of this. It's all interconnected. Same people who are free thinking, who are, when it comes to government, monetary systems, who want to get out of the usury, which is pure evil. Same people who are about free energy technologies are also the same people who are for our health freedoms. And, and it's interesting. I didn't take the jab through COVID. I didn't, I went and got mask hypnosis right away to use like a mask as an example of a pendulum that, one second here, I have to do this. If I were to run out here, at least I could use a key. I would take a mask with a good weight to it and say, you'll easily, what is this? Wait a second. Walk into a restaurant and everyone's wearing a mask. And I'm sitting here with my mask. What is this? As if the key here is a mask. What is it? And I would say, you'll easily and effortlessly remember maskhypnosis.com for the antidotes to mask hypnosis, COVID, whole bunch of other things. Go check it out because you got it bad. That's kind of how it. Not the most love and understanding during that time with what was going on. If I'd say, go check it out because you got it bad. That was a little bit of a jab. I could do better than that. I should, I can, and I will do better than that. But for all the people who are still stuck in the mask world, go check out mask hypnosis and find out what they really didn't want you to know about. Because, even the jab didn't prevent people from getting COVID. It didn't do anything for lowering that TMPRSS2 protein. Meanwhile, they knew that something was already on the market that did that very, very, very well. In fact, that something is something that the Mexican government created a whole new category before between nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals that's never existed before. That something was so important for the Mexican government when they saw the science behind it. They're leading the way. Australian government did something very similar, though. They went ahead and published it as a medicine, which gave all the doctors a gold stamp of approval. But the Mexican government did something even better. They just created a whole new category where even if someone wasn't a doctor, they could name names of diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and AIDS, COVID, tell people exactly what it was, what's been proven and published about it. So the NRF2 activator I take every day, it was published early COVID on what it does for pneumonia, because they didn't have access to a COVID virus to study on what it would do for pneumonia. So they did it with AIDS, because AIDS also will cause all the genes that create the expression of pneumonia from our own DNA expression. And with this God particle that regulates, every single disease mechanism gene there is, including all those with pneumonia, it just downregulated all of them. And that was published early COVID, and they didn't mention it once in mainstream media. That's just, again, less than 1% of what this stuff really does. It's the new model that replaces the pharmaceutical model in my book, and I'll speak that all day long. I don't care. I'm not naming the name of any particular company when I say this, or any specific product when I say this, but I will name the name of the God particle is nucleus reaction factor 2, NRF2, which we'd rather just say NRF2. That's how we say it. It's a zipper protein that just tunes every single one of those genes in the right direction, where not even all drugs will do that. In fact, there are intentionally and unintentionally created bioweapons that take those genes in the wrong direction. Sometimes they've done it on accident. Like there's a couple of the COX-2 inhibitors out there that they had to take off the market after killing hundreds of thousands of people in a very short period of time. They realized they were upregulated in the disease process, those genes, to solve the problem. They weren't causing the problem. It's like the other ones were. So a lot of genes that are upregulated in the disease process is because they're causing the problem, right? So we were supposed to they were upregulated solving it. We're supposed to help those genes even express even more than what they were capable of without the maintenance man that's supposed to help them is NRF2. That's the maintenance man. It can't go to work more and more after the age of 20 again. So all the super antioxidant enzymes that take oxygen and hydrogen, the radical versions of those are oxygen, hydrogen, missing an electron. It's hydrogen peroxide and superoxide. But I'd rather speak English and just say the hydrogen and oxygen radicals get converted back 1,000,000 times per second, every second, to oxygen and hydrogen per molecule of their super antioxidant enzymes that are all regulated by NRF2, like glutathione, catalase, and superoxide dismutase. I'd rather call the hydrogen and oxygen reintegration enzymes, because then people understand what we're talking about more, right? Why don't we speak more English? If I can come up with new phrases like that just at the drop of a hat, I think we could have done this a long time ago. But it's intentional. They want to try to make people think that it's too complicated to understand, when truly the more you learn at the top level, the simpler things get, to the point where even if all they did, now I know they didn't talk about the best NRF2 activator out there. They didn't talk about the worst NRF2 activator out there. They'd rather just talk about anything but NRF2 activation. Like, please talk about HCQ and quercetin. Or please talk about the anything else they were talking about on mainstream. Please. Whatever.
What about laminin?
Please talk about what up? What about what?
What about laminin being the God particle?
Laminin?
Yeah. I've heard that that's the God particle.
there's different God particles for different things. And there's
Okay.
reasons why people call like DMT. There's a book called The God Particle that's all about
Oh,
DMT,
yeah.
and that's for divining. And the Egyptian source of that, I think, was the same source that Moses went to. And that was the burning bush, was actually from acacia. Acacia is the tree that they made the Arks of the Covenants out of. They're made out of layers of acacia wood and gold. So that was the Egyptian tree of life, their source of DMT, and they're ancient beings, right?
Yeah.
Well, we also produce it in our lungs and in our brain. There's a God particle for the DNA called NRF2. There's a God particle for the microbiome, and it's called butyric acid, also known as butyrate. It's responsible for the taste and smell of, well, bile, which is nasty. If you give that to your loved ones, they may not love you anymore. But there is a genius who figured out how to mask the taste and smell of that, which it's available. I'm not going to say any more about that right now, because each one of these is a like skyscraper in our body. Imagine a skyscraper with, say, the bottom floor with the most amount of units on it is cell division when it comes to the DNA skyscraper. There's more genes that have to do with cell division than anything. And the next one that's the next level up is cancer, which is cell division gone bad. That has the next, it's the next floor with the most amount of floors on it, just a little bit less, right? And each one of these floors, they try to target, each one of these units have a key to open it with a drug, and they shut off more than they open. But a lot of times they have long lists of negative effects all the time, the way they do it chemically. But there's just one master key that opens up every unit on every floor, the whole thing. Well, the whole skyscraper that has to do with our DNA side of the equation was all mapped out with the Human Genome Project. We know what all the genes are. We know what all the gene products are. We know what all those which are all different proteins. Some of them are called cytokines, those proteins. Some of them are enzymes. Some of them are super antioxidant enzymes. Some of those are peptides, polypeptides. All the peptides that we're born producing that these athletes are spending thousands of dollars per month for are all regulated by NRF2. So again, one of those, the X39 patch targets, another one, the X49 targets, that's glutathione. Each one of those are one of 5,000 things that NRF2 just does for you. So I'd recommend getting the very best NRF2 activation available. I'm not going to say what that is on this particular call. I'm giving way too much information. I don't want to get any company or product in trouble. And this is all for educational purposes only, nothing to diagnose, prescribe, or do anything that would normally require a license. So, you mentioned at this level, some of the things we're capable of erasing with the name of a company and product, and it just puts a bigger target on you. So I'm not going to do that. I'll dodge that bullet. So there's technologies though that are here, and it's not, Buckminster Fuller said to you never change reality by fighting the existing reality. He said to change something, build a new model that replaces the existing model. Well, it turns out we have all these new models that have already manifested themselves, and it's just, I don't know anyone who's pointing them all out like I am, who's got the map all pulled together that shows here's what all the master keys are for all the branches of regeneration. And most people don't want to talk about anything if it's not something that's their company or their product. For example, I produced a stem cell technology over 30 years ago for every part of the body every day that I reattached my PCL with initially when doctor said that would be impossible to do. It was ripped completely out of his top insertion, pulled a piece of bone out with it, the bottom of my femur. They said it was supposed to shrivel up and be absorbed. But I reattached it very, very quickly and was doing standing backflips for a week straight on the grass, drilled on cue, within 6 weeks. I was basing pyramids that are 2.5 high as University of Utah Yell leader at the time. And it happened during the summer where I had 6 weeks before our camp, where for a week straight, we drilled each other on everything we were going to be doing for the rest of the year. And I was doing everything that I was doing before within 6 weeks. Full range of motion again. And one of the assistant coaches still hadn't had full range of motion from a tear that he'd had 2 years prior. And he showed me at the camp. And I showed him my full range of motion. I went and did everything that I was doing again, and he couldn't believe it. But I was doing better with a full tear that I'd reattached than he was with just a partial tear, I think, is what the situation was. But he didn't have he didn't apply the principles that I was applying. He wasn't blessed to have the father that I had been raised with either. And my father was basically the Nikola Tesla of all the natural healing arts, of the science behind it all, and empowerment. He's the one who got Tony Robbins literally started on his path, and Wayne Dyer and a whole bunch of others. And I'm going to talk about Tony Robbins right now because, hey, why not? I think he's a bit of how can I do this without you? He forgot where he came from, evidently. He hasn't been wanting to talk about it. And a lot of people like Tony, we've seen like this, they don't even retain half of what they could have, not even the most important half. So his trainers tell me when they go through my class on mini trampolines, it's called Race for the Truth, they say, he's not even teaching half of this, not even the most important half. And it's true, but he still doesn't get up on stage till after getting on a mini trampoline to get focused. And I understand he's like $1 billion guy, owns his own island in Fiji. That's okay. Sometimes when you operate in, say, Beelzebub, for example, he helps people betray their closest relationships. Usually it's a business relationship or something, for something that they might think they're going to get out of it. And Mammon is the prince of the underworld dealing with greed. And these two princes love playing with each other. So what is it really when we could have blessed way more lives? I don't care if Tony Robbins is listening to this right now. Sometimes I feel like some people are blessed more financially just to suppress something that's way more powerful, that's already been there, it's still here. And I'm only speaking about this right now so pointedly because I know it's time to come out of the radar. It's time to it is okay. Tony has blessed a lot of lives. He's there's no question. He's an impact training poster child for impact trainings. And that program is, I think I can talk circles around that particular culture, the leaders that are teaching that stuff. I don't want to, I think it's a bit too aggressive, abusive, manipulative with some of their tactics. Yet I've seen people that were basically just got through attempting suicide, go through these programs and have literal miracles happen in their lives where it just pulled them right out of it. And I do know that with serious circumstances, with the more aggressive the circumstances, sometimes it justifies more aggressive measures being made. That's just the truth. If someone's facing death in the face, it takes a lot of wisdom to know what direction to go. Like when it comes to the chemotherapy, radiation, all the lives. I just know if people were given enough time before, especially before they even get into trouble, why wait till there's a problem? It's like the slothful servant waiting to be told what to do, and then he doesn't do a very good job after that. That's what I see a lot of what's been happening, and people waiting till there's something else that the government does that will literally threaten their paycheck if they're going to be able to pay their mortgage or not, or keep their business or not, before they wake up. And what are we going to do to proactively create something much greater? We're the ones that wrote the spells that we're under. In the beginning was the word, every word is spelled. And it wasn't just a word, it was a word of power. And most people that talk about words of power are talking about ones that have existed for thousands of years. I like to show people how to create them. And remember, sometimes it was us that was there that did that. Sometimes it was actually us that created this. And to remember, if we did it, especially the legal system that we're in and so on, maybe we could do it again. If everyone would just read the Declaration of Independence, what it actually says, we have more reason today to do this than ever before. And I believe we're meant to create something far greater, again, beyond global Declaration of Independence and Constitution, for a new, some people call it a new golden age, golden realm, like Garden of Eden. Others would rather call it kingdom of God on earth. What's the difference? It's like saying star beings or heavenly beings. What's the difference? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it always the same principles when we really take it and look closer at what's going on? So let's take a look more closely at the principles of peace and what those really, really are. The more people really tune into that for themselves, by experience, they'll figure it out. Maybe that's what they had to do, is basically have an experience where they met God. Maybe they had to cut something off of themselves that they end up missing later on when the hormones didn't really make them look like a very beautiful woman, if you know what I mean. Maybe they're one of the ugliest women we've ever seen in our lives as a woman. And it ended up being just a total horror show for them. Each person's different circumstances. I can say some of the women that have gone through the change, you would not know. They could look like one of the most beautiful women you've ever seen. Some of them I'm friends with. I don't want to mention names. And I never made it part of our conversation. They don't even know that I know. But sometimes it worked out for them. Who are we to say what it is? But I know there's enough pressure built in the laws of nature themselves that we shouldn't be having to add to it. I knew enough at a very young age that I'm a very straight, and I've always been straight, always be straight. I haven't had to worry about that when it comes to my sexual orientation. I have friends that are gay, lesbian, all this stuff. And the thing is, men will always argue like men. Women will always argue like women. And in every relationship, it doesn't matter. Someone's going to play the masculine role and someone's going to play that feminine role. That happens. We see it. They can't get around that part. Isn't that interesting? That in our DNA, there's something that I want to say about our DNA. There's only one chromosome. It's that Y chromosome that separates the men from the women. And it hits the fetus with a dose of testosterone that changes everything that there has been changed, different male from female, from even the wiring of our brains that work differently. Mm-hmm. That it's from that. And there's other things that can change wiring of people's brains, obviously. Drugs can change wiring of people's brains. There's a book called Our Toxic World by Dr. Doris Rapp. Decades ago, she unraveled what was going on. The drugs making women act more like men and men act more like women. It's been going on for years. And then they added plastic bottled water after that. And, more hormones to the meat that we're eating, all kinds of things. And if that's all there is physically that changed the male from the female, was that stage in growing in the womb, that the fetus was hit with a dose of testosterone. If that's it, how easy is it for some of these males who are more feminine anyway, that actually get as masculine of a change in the womb even, to make a change? How much easier is it for some of them to have that happen, or to have those feelings that they're just more feminine? It's a very real thing, especially with all that they've been exposed to. It's really interesting. So how do we judge that? Where is the judgment in any of this when it comes to what is our right? I believe that the fetus has a right to live personally, but it's not my body with the fetus in it making the decision as a man. And one of the interesting videos that I saw recently is there was a father of a woman who got pregnant who put a pill in that was like a morning after pill, made his girlfriend lose the baby. And she's suing him for that. So it's created a bunch of controversy in the whole pro-life or pro-choice, whatever. If the woman can sue a guy for that, why couldn't the guy sue the woman for that A baby's a baby. It's baby for the mother and the father at the same time, isn't it? Or is it and have you heard the testimonies of some of these people who were products of rape that were born, that are so glad that their parents decided to go ahead and still keep them, that they could come and be here? Who knows? It's really interesting. I'm not the one to say what to do. All I do is I like to have a safer place where we can talk about it, that we can create that, where we could talk about the worst, about the scariest, most, what pulls on people's emotions the very most, and see what kind of clarity can really come out of it, where people have the safer place where it's okay, where one person's not really bashing, talking down to the other person too much, too aggressively. In my opinion, way too much of that's been done. Way more love and understanding needs to be poured on, and way more honoring our personal freedoms when it's our choice, where most people are doing the best they can just to figure out how to be happy, right? With a lot of the choices that they're making. The bottom line is they're not happy. They're not comfortable in their own skin. And if we would focus on that, why aren't they? Why aren't they more comfortable in their own skin? And what were the subtle things that happened before it turned into be a big chain where they're really feeling so uncomfortable that they're willing to take such a drastic, such an aggressive decision to try to fix it, not even knowing what's going to happen, because they've never experienced that either. It's an interesting thing. I'm glad that this is where this has gone, because we all need way more love and understanding poured onto everything. So if we could clarify what the laws of nature actually are, and give people a more solid playing field for all of us that is protecting our individual freedoms, as long as we're not hurting other people. And also when people are hurting people, where they are abusive, where they are paying triple what they ever expected to receive, where we're not enabling them through this process, where we really do have the behavior modification built into the system, where they're paying the price of their ticket when they're hurting other people, where they're abusing other people. And I'm talking about from top to bottom, government leaders and everybody, where they're not getting away with it. And any laws that have been passed that said they got away with it, that we just erase all those, that we can start fresh and we can say, no, you can't. No, you can't. We can actually make them pay the price of the ticket. And I've learned in this life, there's a lot of things that I've experienced that are worse than death with what I've been through just to get this far. For me to have it as a safe conversation where I feel like I can talk about anything. And yet I don't think I'm doing it in a way where any of these people are going to take offense, because I'm bleeding right there with them. I feel their pain right there with them. And I want them to be happy just as much as they want to be happy. I care about their point of view of the side of the equation just as much as they do. And you know, when you do someone a favor like that, most of them automatically want to care about how you feel from your point of view too. There is though way too much toxicity built in our system with what we've created, enabling it. There's way too much abuse in our system. But most people by nature, when you do something good for them, they automatically want to do something good back.
Yeah.
Most people, just by our human nature, by our true nature, that's how we're born. And then things are programmed into us after that. And sometimes they're programmed in the womb. I could talk about that too. But by nature, a lot of that programming is from love, from a loving mother-father situation. What if I told you we could upload the whole English language within just a moment in the baby in the womb, after the brain hits a certain stage of development, that we can upload data files I've been doing this for decades. And so this is nothing new for me. I've also, there's a new book that's in the air that's been on the back burner. Now it seems to be on the front burner with some of the things that are manifesting right now, because when something's time has come, nothing can stop it. And so prenatal empowerment is the leading edge of education. Elites have thought they're ahead of the game when they get kids around 3 or 4 years old, start teaching them things. And it turns out they're way behind the learning curve. That's something that's actually that I figured out, that I've known, but I'm here helping usher in a whole bunch of higher realm knowledge. And part of that is higher realm communication principles, higher realm being communication principles, even how married couples can renew their vows with every beat of their heart. There are ways that that is literally possible. And they can also add to them and modify them at a whim as they're growing and learning more and more about what those commitments really can be, what is possible, how they can be even more greater and greater than what they thought and what they were taught. So just like the gathering, it's really bigger and better. It's not what we thought or what we were taught. It's bigger and better. It's a grand integration of all the greatness from everywhere. So when I look at the Son of God and the names he's been called in different times and places, I look at him as the coolest cat for everybody. People just understood what he taught and what he did, what he stood for. So it's an interesting thing. He shows up. You can't get away from there's certain archetypes that just show up everywhere. And I'm not here to have an identity crisis. I'm not here to enable any identity crisis with anybody either. But there really are certain archetypes that just show up, and they show up in different people that we know that remind us of different people, because there's so many ways that things can be expressed. And there's some main archetypes, like there's 7 archangels, just like there's 7 princes of the underworld, the 7 that deal with the 7 deadly sins. When we turn those into strength, they're pillars in our lives. So it's interesting conversation. I want to come back again to the very most simple, the most subtle, the most basic level of all this is really what we're able to do from love, because you can't separate the two, with every positive choice that we make. And how can we create that every day? How many choices do we really have in a day to do that? How many liberties can we really take in a day to how we show up in a more beautiful and playing a more empowering healer, creating empowerment and healing, and empowerment beyond healing? How can we do that? And is it time to ask the question of how we can literally reboot this whole matrix of matrices, rewrite the whole thing? I think that is inevitability. It's something that we've done over and over again. And I think the sooner we figure it out and the sooner we clarify it, the less pain we're going to experience. Just like but all empowerment is bittersweet. Part of the process of this simplicity, this stupid, simple, like just make positive choices, part of this process of whatever it is inside of us that we just aren't comfortable, that is not our healthy, happy selves, that's making us so we don't feel comfortable in our own skin, whatever that pain is, I encourage everyone to listen very closely right now, to embrace it, to grab onto it with both hands, to hold it tight, to listen to it, to go into a space of listening and receiving from that pain, to figure out and to allow it to show you how, where, and what the shift is for you, where that gold nugget of empowerment is for you within that. Because that is what has been my path, one of my greatest paths. It's been bittersweet for me, but I just embrace it. When a bummer happens, I know this about the bummers. They happen regularly, just like they do for most listeners and for normal people. Yet I know something about each bummer. I know that they have an even bigger woo-hoo. And the more we learn from them, the more we get on the other side of what that cognitive dissonance is that's part of that, where two opposite ideas are happening at the same time. Like, I'm supposed to be happy, but this is, pain, whatever, this pain or that pain in my butt, whatever it is. When you listen to it and you learn the lessons, we have less and less of that duality, less and less of the bitter, more and more and more of the sweet, until the perfect day. Until that circle becomes unbreakable. We go around that circle of life enough that it doesn't matter where you start making positive choices. You get more and more of the fruit of the tree of life happening in your life. And that beauty, the glory, doesn't matter if it's being more spiritual, if it's your finances, if it's your love life, any aspect of life, that we can actually get it all lined up, all flowing. And I think that's the point is, say, for example, our love life's supposed to be the cherry on top of everything. The ultimate expression of what we can create here. That's how I think of it anyway. So magical, right? But everything else that's underneath that, if it's not really lined up, could it ever really express to be what it could be? So that's the only thing that I hadn't made public out of the laws of empowerment, is the empowered intimacy side of the equation. Even though I've known that that's what would get most people's attention. All of a sudden, if we talk about sex, everybody's ears perk up. Boom, got my attention. I gotta admit, I'm built a lot the same way. But I just know still that it could never be what it could be without everything else lined up. Well, that is a section that will be made public here really soon, it turns out. Like I said before, when something's time has come, there's no stopping it. There's a reason why I didn't have the green light to share that side of the equation before. Everything happens. Like, I haven't done any of this without having the green lights, knowing that I have the free pass to do it and do it safe. That there's enough love and understanding, and knowing that it's time. So every step, and in learning those things, they're some of the things that I'd always tell, my angels, you could call them, my team that's been helping me along the way, that I always thank them for my personal areas of personal interest of where I was ready to grow. But I'd always tell them, but look, don't expect me, when it came to certain things that people have been killed over, but never expect me to be the one to talk about those things, okay? Unless basically God shows up. Well, sometimes God has a way of showing up. And that's happened over and over again in my life. And when its time has come, when it was meant to be. So right now we have things being manifested. I've been in a manifestation mode, all kinds of things lining up, and everything that we're dreaming of, wishing and hoping for, like the beauty pageant winners. There's never been any controversy in wishing and hoping for world peace. Look what it's done for them. But being able to show how we get there, what it will take to create that, all the most controversial things that are out there, we get to talk about. I say we get to, because instead of reliving our pain, it's not about that. It's literally recreating all of it. We get to recreate. We get to shift the abuse in every system of our lives out. That's what we get to do. And I just never seen like a program that could handle all that. And as I was looking for one, I was just more and more disappointed. Even looking at all the so-called peace leaders that have existed, like Gandhi, I was really disappointed to see where his weaknesses were. He was actually quite an enabler of abuse when I got into the details of his life. And so I had to deal with a brother and a mother of mine, and watching the same kind of enablement happen at that level right in my face in order to look back at some of these other people's lives to see, to understand those principles that had been played out. So, and it doesn't hit home till it hits home sometimes. But hey, are we ready? Are we ready to? Are we going to keep going around the same things? History repeating itself over and over again? Or are we ready to learn the lessons, Rob? What do you think? And Loisel, Miss Loisel?
Yeah. Actually, I think it's a great topic, and I would love to do this again. It's coming to an hour. I'd like to keep these podcasts around an hour. So it's been a pleasure. And so if you'd like to, I definitely think so. Yeah. And what about you, Rob?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Thank you. I mean, this was really inspiring, and like I'd like to have you on, my show too with Nicole that we do, and yeah, or I'll upload this too. If Amy wants me
Yeah,
to,
let's
I'll upload
rebroadcast
both.
it. We come on, do a lot more. I'm just sharing totally from the heart,
Yes, we can tell.
100%.
It was
Just
amazing. It was really amazing.
Yes.
It really was. It really was next level stuff. Honestly.
Yeah. Your
Yeah.
story's amazing, really.
I've always
Yes.
been a good storyteller, even since I was a little kid, and I kind of, to a fault, where a lot of the kids my age, they thought I was bragging too much, and most of the stuff I talk about are stuff that I'd actually lived, though. And so for me, I was just me having fun. So this is me having fun still. I've been full-time involved in this work as a multi-dimensional interfaith minister, leader, speaker. Over 30 years of experience doing what I'm
And
doing. My father was over 30 years too.
would you like to
Yeah.
share your contact information?
And I'll share
You
that I
and
had a
Rob.
55th birthday last June,
Happy
but I'm
belated
not old at
birthday.
all. No, I'm not
Wow.
old at all. I
You're
would
0
say
years old, right?
0 years old. Thank you. You know it, Loisel. So that's how I talk. And my chrono is 55. That's how I talk. I don't add a numeric value to the word old or age at all when it comes to how I represent myself. And I encourage other people to follow suit, because it's all part of how we're programming. We're listening to what we're saying. Our sound of our own voice is most powerful healing sound for us, and it's what we're listening to the most. So if you want to go to a therapist, just get a tape recorder, speak into it what you'd like to sell this to the therapist, and speak into it what you want the therapist to say back to you, and listen to your own voice exactly with the passion and everything that you can put into it. The words and the passion and the emotion, understanding, listen to it. That's actually been a secret for years. That'll put a lot of therapists out of business.
Well, thank you
Good.
for sharing that, Dr. West.
Oh,
That
you're
sounds like a
welcome.
great idea. Like my brother just told me should see a therapist. So when we were doing family therapy and during rehab, he said I should continue. Well, maybe I'll get that voice recorder out. Well, thank you for sharing that and all the tidbits and stuff that you've shared during this podcast. And Rob, would you like to share your information as well? Both of you guys?
Yeah, for anybody that sees this, I'll be live at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight with Psychic Liz Cross, and then I'll be live again at 8 p.m. Eastern with Donald Altman. So, I'm going to be I have more shows today, and, that's kind of what I do. They can find me on Rumble at Typical Skeptic Podcast, on YouTube at Typical Skeptic Podcast. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X. I'm not real big on X, but, I still, and then, I have a new podcast with Coley, which is called the Truth Serum Podcast, where we're doing that together. And that's, and then that's about it. And thank you, Loisel. This was awesome. And thank you, Dr. Ezra. Dr. West. This was amazing. This was really inspirational. Seriously.
Yeah, Rob, you can call me anything as long as it's good. We'll talk about that later. Like Ez is a nickname, or Dr. Ez. It's just easy. How many of us like things that are just easy? But not just anybody can call me Dr. Easy. Okay, Rob and Miss Loisel? You get that?
I got it.
You're laughing.
Love it. Yeah.
Well, as long as you get it, you can call me that as long as you want. As long as you understand the humor in that. But really, Zero Disease is my .com, my Facebook, Instagram. Somebody had already taken that, so I got Power Hill is another trademark name. But Zero Disease is my main trademark name. Zero to Z is another one. When I say zero to Z, some people hear zero to Z. When I've said zero to Z, people hear zero to Z's. I took on every good name and number from zero to Z's back in the 2000, around the time that Prince went by a symbol. And so it's like the alpha and omega, the end, the beginning and the end type of thing. That's why I say you can call me anything as long as it's good, for real.
Yeah, positive vibes. So,
hey, don't mean to blow everybody's minds too much, but just a little bit. We'll talk to you more later.
Yeah, you're mind blowing. Well, thanks so much. And thanks to Dr. West and Typical Skeptic Rod for being here. And thank you for all the guests and people showing up. We appreciate you. And best wishes to all. Bye for now.